Hey guys, this is Courtney from Willis Bloom, and today we are doing a super chill sit down video with me on the Cancer full moon, which is happening tomorrow, January 17th. This is a little bit last minute because I was on a trip, wasn't sure if I was going to do this, but I think that I should. So, yes, as I mentioned, this is a full moon in Cancer, which means that the moon is in Cancer and the sun is currently in Capricorn. So the sun is illuminating the moon, and it's really illuminating an intense variety of emotions, especially because the sun is right now sitting right next to Pluto. So this can energize the sun even more and bring about depths of emotions that come from really deep within us. And Pluto can tend to bring up fear as well and a lot of repressed emotions. So I do kind of feel like this is a time of illuminating many truths within us. And I think that it can bring up repressed truths or difficult truths emotionally so that we can ultimately be liberated. And what beautiful thing that I see about this moon is that it's also making a loose trine to Neptune, which has a very spiritual and healing experience along with it, as well as a sextile to the North Node in Gemini. And the North Node in Gemini is at 0 degrees. So right now it is making one of the last aspects to the nodes before the nodes switch, the North Node switches into Taurus on January 19th. So to me, this is a beautiful wrapping up period before we begin a completely new journey as a society and as a people. And so I think that part of what we're meant to discover right now are emotional truths that are asking us to still be really open-minded and adaptable, to still take in new information. These are all the North Node and Gemini type of features or themes. And so I feel like it's trying to bring us to a deeper understanding of ourselves and our lives and our relationships, which I'm going to talk about in a minute with the Venus retrograde and Mercury retrograde, in fact. So I think a lot of this is about reflecting and refinement and personal understanding before we start shifting into the North Node into a fixed sign, which is not here to adapt and to learn. It's more so here to solidify and build and know what we're building upon. And so to me, this is our moment of truth, both intellectually and emotionally, that kind of bears down into the basic foundations of who we are, what we want, what we desire, and then building upon it from there. So in terms of cards, I pulled the 6 of Swords for this and the 4 of Wands. So this is specifically about having this full moon in Cancer. I pulled a lot of cards actually for a lot of different things. So these cards to me really have a lot to do with us transitioning into a new chapter of our lives. And that's what I feel like Pluto represents next to the sun. It's a time of deep internal transformation and even external transformation, because the sun is an animus. It's externally guided. It shows externally. And so I think that the transformation that the moon is representing is something internal, where the sun with Pluto is representing something external. So many of us are moving between chapters. We are entering into a new phase of our lives. And a lot of this has to do with us valuing and thinking about things in a different way and building upon our life because of those changes in values or beliefs. And so I think the 6 of Swords is representing this Plutonian ability to shed old skin, bring up the repressed or old things from the past, let it go, and then understand what we truly need to carry with us. And so you're not going to take this journey with every single sword or every single thought and emotion that you've ever had. You're really allowing yourself to leave things in the previous chapter. I will say, though, that Pluto can bring up a pretty heavy degree of anxiety, of fear, of worry, and I think that's why I pulled the 9 of Swords along with this, along with the 3 of Cups, because the 3 of Cups alone is a celebratory energy, especially with our friends, and I did pull a card on the 11th house of friends. So I do think our connections, our relationships, our friendships, and our home as well with the 4 of Wands, our home, our intimate family life, all those things bring about a desire to celebrate, to enjoy one another. And I think that's a big part of what this full moon is about, is these deeper emotional connections, relating. Cancer is a water sign, which is about connecting and relating, creating relationships. And so I think that there is an underlying motive or desire for that, a desire to celebrate, to enjoy what is actually going well in our lives. But there are difficult things with Venus and Mercury retrograde, with Pluto with the Sun. There are harsher realities at play that instigate this Nine of Swords, which tells us that there are things that worry us. There are things that keep us up at night. And even though there are many things to be thankful for, we can still see the gloom, even if it's not in our lives, if it's in our friends' lives, if it's in anyone's lives that we know or we care about. We can feel their emotion. We can feel their challenge as they are transitioning from one phase of life into another. I think some of us are having bigger transitions than others, and it's clear that some of us are having a little bit of a harder time, but everyone right now is undergoing a change, is undergoing a time of deep reflection. And I think Cancer can bring up a lot of emotions of the past. It can bring up emotions tied to our families, tied to our upbringing, or just any emotions in general. And it could feel like the Four of Wands. It could feel fulfilling and uniting, but it can also feel like the Nine of Swords, where it gives us a lot of emotional tension and anxiety, because Pluto can tend to bring out the darkness in the emotions. So we're really looking at the full spectrum here, not just the good, not just the bad. And so I think a lot of us are going to be feeling this interesting mix. With the trine to Neptune, I really feel like that's why the Four of Wands and the Three of Cups are coming out, because Neptune can have this blissful type of energy where we are enjoying the spiritual benefits of feeling our feelings, the creative benefits. And so I think that a lot of us have the ability to transform some of these dark or negative fear-based emotions that come from Pluto into something much more positive with this influence with Neptune. It is 6 degrees in separating, so it is not as powerful as the Sun is with Pluto. So the fear could feel at times more overwhelming than our spiritual connection or our creative connection. But ultimately, that support is there. And with the sextile with the North Node in Gemini, it's asking us to grow by looking at some of the things that hide in the darkness within us emotionally. And so I think it's ultimately giving us freedom, so that when we move into the North Node in in Taurus on January 19th, it's giving us freedom now, or liberating us from things that weigh us down negatively, emotionally, anxiety-wise, so that we can then stabilize in a new world, a new ground, on something that feels much healthier, much cleaner, much purer. And that's what I'm hoping the Neptune influence is like, this kind of spiritual purification. So let's talk about Mercury retrograde, which is also happening at the time of this moon. It's happening from January 14th until February 3rd. And at this moon, Mercury retrograding in Aquarius is also going to be squaring Saturn and conjunct Uranus and conjunct Saturn squaring Uranus. Sorry, I'm very tired, which is one of the reasons I almost didn't record this. And so this to me is a definite time of having a deep metamorphosis or reflection upon certain truths in our lives. And I think that we've already been doing this with Venus retrograde, which I'll talk about in a minute. But Venus retrograde has been asking us, what's the truth of my relationships? What am I looking for in my relationships? How can I build upon that? And now Mercury going retrograde is asking us to do this as well, but in relation to the moon. And so the kind of emotional depths that we're going to be experiencing in this time are also going to give us something to reflect upon intellectually. I think it's going to be a time in which, with this square to Uranus, truths can be revealed. And I pulled the Uranus card for this specifically. And Mercury making a square to Uranus, the truths that come to the surface can feel agitating, can feel destabilizing and restless. And I think it's a time for us to really ask ourselves what that truth means. So now that we know maybe something new about ourselves and we have clarity, and with Saturn there, we're taking some level of responsibility for what's happening and our contribution to this in our lives. which I feel like is the Justice card, not only having truth, but also having fairness. And I think Saturn comes in here karmically and has certain truths and realities revealed to us, along with some kind of karmic balancing or retribution. So for example, if we realize that we've been living in one mode in our relationships and we've been maybe manipulating people or taking advantage of people, which could have been something we especially did when Venus was hanging out with Pluto, that realization or that truth will come with some kind of karmic retribution with Saturn there, where we not only get to see how we behaved, how we contributed to this, but also we get to see how maybe it affects people and see how it affects us, and maybe possibly even have a situation occur or play out that resembles this this past energy, this past action, good and bad. It's a very fair, neutral type of energy with Saturn and with the Justice card. So we can expect to have maybe some more painful realizations because I pulled the Three of Swords, and because oftentimes having a square with Uranus conjunct Saturn, Mercury has a little bit of whiplash. It has the restrictiveness or the bleakness, the not negativity, but the sort of pessimism that comes innately with Saturn, and then the shock that comes with the square to Uranus. However, it is making a sextile to Chiron, so it can bring up some painful things from the past to heal, to let go of. So there is this shock value and this reality check that we're getting in order to bring us greater happiness and contentedness. And I think that's why I pulled the fifth house card, which is, yes, it says creativity, but it's really, the fifth house is about the most joy and pleasure that we can experience in our lives. And I think that there are some things standing in the way from us truly embracing the greatest amount of joy and pleasure. And so I think essentially what this Mercury retrograde is doing with the square to Uranus in conjunction with Saturn is helping us face some hard factual truths about situations in our lives, how we've contributed to them, how we've created karma, good and bad, for us to then emotionally process them, because it is a full moon in Cancer, to dig deep with this conjunction with Pluto and see how maybe we have repressed our connection to or our involvement in some of these circumstances, and for us to finally process some of what has happened and our contribution to it, so that we can leave lighter, happier, and freer. And that's ultimately what I feel like this Mercury retrograde is going to do for us. As I've mentioned a few times, we also have Venus retrograde. This has been retrograde for all of January, pretty much until the end of January 29th. And Venus retrograde in Capricorn, I pulled the 10 of Cups in reverse. This is a time in which we are, like I said, examining all of the foundations of our relationships. And so to have this card come out in reverse is telling us that happiness, the upright, the full contentedness, the appreciation of our loved ones is possible for us, but it's going to have to come after we make certain changes. And I think a lot of us do have really great relationships right now. So maybe it's your relationship with yourself. Maybe it's your relationship with your values, your worth, your relationship with money. It might not be just with a partner or family member or friend. It could be something on a wider scale than that. So all of us are being touched by this Venus retrograde this month, re-examining our values and how we've related to money and ourselves and other people, so that we can, again, as Venus goes direct on the 29th, create more happiness that comes from real lasting fulfillment, from making changes that were long overdue in any of those areas of our lives. And with Venus making a trine to Uranus, I absolutely feel like we have so much support from the universe right now to make those changes in a lasting way, to liberate us, to see ourselves and our relationship with those things differently. Venus is making a square to Chiron, so there can be some, again, painful things that we have to heal and we have to face and we have to realize that I think is coming primarily from Mercury. And it's ultimately going to benefit our relationship to make those changes, to heal and to connect deeper. The last thing I want to talk about is the fact that Mars is in Sagittarius, making a square with Neptune. And if you don't know much about Mars square Neptune type of energy, then I suggest watching my teacher's video, Achyuta Bhava. I think you spell it Acutyabhava. He is an amazing astrologer. I highly recommend his video on this. But essentially, Mars in Sagittarius really wants to fight for something that it believes in. And with the square with Neptune, Neptune does have the potential to either hinder or help the expansion of that belief system and fighting for that belief system. Mars in Sagittarius is kind of like a religious crusader, especially with Neptune in the mix. However, these planets are in a square or an aspect of tension. And so they also have the potential to lean towards escapism. Neptune can always add this kind of influence when it's making a square. We either have the potential to make changes to our lives and our beliefs and our ideals and act accordingly, or we have the potential to be swept up in thinking negatively about certain circumstances and wanting to not feel that. Neptune is a planet of avoidance, and Mars is our animalistic nature. So it has the potential to be molded and guided to fight for higher spiritual ideals, or to be given to our base instincts to follow seeking pleasure, avoiding pain, and escapist tendencies. So the low vibration of Mars square Neptune is going to have us feel defeated and then seek pleasure and avoid pain in order to get rid of that feeling of defeat or ignore and escape it. And so what we need to really do is sink into this truth that Mercury is presenting to us with retrograde, it's squared to Uranus. Sink into the reality that we can see much clearer and follow and take action in an adventurous, boundary-pushing, bold way on those truths that we are now witnessing in our lives. And I pulled the King of Swords and the Three of Wands that really represents this whole energy to me. The King of Swords is us living in a state of truth, honesty, and clarity about what's going on in our lives. So Mars and Sag is all about being blunt. It's all about being transparent. And Neptune is asking us to step more into the fire of Mars and not the escapism. So stepping into the adventure, pushing ourselves, going out into the unknown with this reality, with this truth, so that we can grow more as individuals and as people. So that is what I'm seeing for the moon overview. I am going to pull some cards for each of the signs. I'm going to make it super brief. Don't want to get like too far into it, but let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so up first we have Aries rising. So I just pulled some cards off screen for you, and I wanted to let you know that this moon is happening in your 4th and 10th house axis. So the moon in Cancer is in your 4th house, the sun in Capricorn along with Pluto is in your 10th house. And I pulled the part of fortune, which is all about having some type of financial success or breakthrough, which is really interesting because you also have Mercury squaring Uranus in the 2nd house of finances. So I do think that you guys might have some realizations about how to interact with your money differently, or how to even make more money in the future. This might not be something that you act on right now, given that Mercury's in the 11th house of future planning, but I do think that you guys could have some realizations about how to switch up things with your money to be more successful and more stable in the future, which is a lot about what we're analyzing right now with Venus retrograde in Capricorn, the Sun and Pluto in Capricorn, all in your 10th house of career foundations, of your reputation in the world, of your future successes. And so I think that you guys are going to be maybe having some financial realizations, some planning realizations. And with the Sun and Pluto in your 10th house, you're having a new journey begin to transpire in your career with this Fool card. It's giving you the opportunity to have some kind of reset in your career that is going to give you the ability to transform from the inside out, because the moon is in the 4th house of emotions and a family, and I pulled the Hermit card. And so there is some aspect of you going within into your roots, understanding yourself more deeply, that is giving you a new start in your career. And then Mercury is also giving you some type of realization about your financial future and what you can do about that. So that is what I see for you, Aries rising. If you're interested in learning astrology, then I recommend checking out the North Node Society, which is my astrology membership, linked in the description box below. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Taurus rising. So for you, Taurus, this full moon is happening along your 3rd and 9th house axis. So the 3rd house is where the moon is in Cancer, and the 9th house is where the sun is in Capricorn, along with Pluto. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull a few cards for you to see how this will play out in your life. Let me actually grab this other deck. So you guys got the 3 of Wands and 8 of Cups. So both of these to me are a lot about transitions in one's life. And so it's very interesting, because one of the first things that comes to mind with having a moon in the 3rd house is a deep emotional realization about kind of the tasks that we've taken on, or the things that we do on the 3rd house and the 6th house remind me of each other. There is this busyness quality, this interconnectedness, interacting with our environment, being busy doing things, keeping up responsibilities. And I think with having the sun in the 9th house with Pluto, you're undergoing a metamorphosis in your long-term vision and in your beliefs about what's possible for you. And so I think that the things that you are emotionally gravitating towards, either thinking about, communicating about, interacting with, signing up for, those things are going to start changing based off of your new ideals, your new beliefs. And you guys are having this also solidified by having Mercury in the 10th house of career squaring Uranus in the 1st house. And I pulled the 1st house for you. So you guys are having some big career realizations, and also realizations about how you might need to change as an individual to bring about more joy and connectedness and intuitiveness in your career. So I feel like you guys are trying to bring more soulfulness into what you're doing. And that's what the 3 of Wands feels. It feels like this stretch, this personal growth opportunity, this stepping more into your potential. And it's something that feels alive, it feels exciting, it feels electric. But in order to feel that way and move towards that new horizon, you do have to leave the past behind. And this is something that might be a little bit difficult for a Taurus rising, where there is a desire to have some sort of solid foundation, some kind of stable commitment, and a consistency and comfort zone. And so you guys are really being asked to push yourselves hard all of 2021 and 2022, with Saturn making a square to Uranus pretty much both of these years, and then having Mercury now coming in here, giving you insight and wisdom into what it is that you need to change as an individual, how you can create this lack of stability to create change and growth in your life and step outside of your comfort zone. So you guys are in for a big treat in terms of changing yourself and having new things come into your career, but you have to be willing to let go of the past and let go of your comfort zone and leave the shore in order to reach that new horizon. So if you like this, please give me a like and comment down below. And if you're interested in learning astrology, I recommend checking out my membership, the North Node Society, linked in the description box below. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Gemini rising. So for you guys, this full moon is happening along your 2nd and 8th house axis. So that means that the moon is in your 2nd house of finances. And I just pulled the Saturn return age card. So it might be a time in which you guys are being asked to become really responsible in your finances. But let's look at what some of the other cards say. So that means the sun is in the 8th house along with Pluto. And this is generally a time in which we are more emotionally challenged because the 8th house tends to bring up crises situations, traumas from the past, insecurities, things that leave us feeling unstable or needing to be transformed in some way. And having the sun and Pluto here is really lighting up anything that has been repressed. And I think that's why I pulled the 5 of Wands. This is a card of arguing, of discord, but to be honest, I don't think that this moon in Cancer is necessarily about conflict in terms of relationships. I really see this as emotional conflict, emotional and mental instability, and discord within oneself. And so anything that has been contributing to inner discord is going to have the light shed on it now to be released and to be emotionally processed. So having the moon in the 2nd house is giving you guys the ability to create a more stable and consistent self-image and emotional reality. And I think that's why I pulled the Saturn card. I don't think it's necessarily about finances. I really think that this is really about your relationship with yourself and anything that has been causing emotional discord, especially mentally, because Mercury is your ruling planet and it's in your 9th house squaring Uranus in the 12th. This is asking you to really shed light on your current beliefs and let some of them go, because you have some limiting beliefs or some recurring thought patterns that have been keeping you stuck. I'm surprised I didn't pull the devil card, but I think that's what this 5 of Wands is trying to indicate. It's not just being stuck, it's like clash within the mind. And so I feel like you guys have been having this inner warfare or this inner dialogue that is challenging you. And the square with Uranus and Mercury is trying to liberate you from this dialogue that is unhealthy and unnecessary for yourself. And so the Saturn return card, having the moon in the 2nd house, is helping stabilize you emotionally, become more mature, become more resilient by facing and releasing some of this inner dialogue. And on top of this, I pulled the 3 of Wands, which to me is indicating that you guys now have the potential to grow drastically as an individual. So it's through this resilience and this maturation and taking on new responsibilities or moving to new horizons that you're going to be able to work through old mindsets that don't belong on this new journey. And so I feel like you guys are really here to do a deep dive emotionally and mentally into where you've been lately and how you've been contributing to internal chaos, and where this actually could come from a very old and repressed place where you did not feel safe. And now you have the opportunity to create that safety for yourself as an adult, where you now can parent yourself. And so this feels like a completely like redoing in aspects some form of your childhood, where there might be key themes kind of replaying now that is linked to the past then, now that you have the chance to liberate and do things differently, and now that you know you are safe. So that is what I'm seeing for you guys. If this resonates, please like and comment down below. And if you want to learn astrology, then check out my membership, the North Node Society, linked in the description box below. And I hope you have a great full moon. Bye. All right, up next we have Cancer rising. So for you guys, this full moon is happening along your 1st and 7th house axis. So whenever I see a full moon in the 1st house, which is where the moon of course is because it's in Cancer, it's always going to be very strongly felt and experienced. And I'm just gonna pull a few cards for you guys. Oh, so weird. I just pulled the Mercury retrograde card, and if you've been listening to what I've been saying so far, we are currently in a Mercury retrograde. I also pulled the 2nd house owning card. So I definitely think that you guys might be feeling your emotions really heightened at this time, and your relationships are coming under the microscope with the sun being with Pluto in your 7th house of relationships. I've been talking about how I do feel like Pluto is bringing up a little bit of repressed emotions or fearful circumstances for you in your relationship dynamic. And I think that this can be a time for us to process a lot of what has made us who we are. And I'm definitely getting a lot of different areas of your life coming to the surface right now. Okay, so first of all, I pulled the King of Pentacles, the Knight of Cups, and the Fool. So since we're talking about relationships, I feel like these cards are specifically the ones involved with that. I'm going to say that you guys have been trying to move towards a more solid and stable type of relationship with the King of Pentacles next to the Knight of Cups. Doesn't matter what kind of relationship this is, but I really feel like you guys have been doing a deep dive and analysis into your partnerships, your family relationships, any kind of connection, your work relationships, and you're trying to make them more solid and more fulfilling for you. And I think that you guys are doing that with the sun, with Pluto. I think you could be bringing up, again, things from the past or things that are repressed or even fears that have been keeping you from having this stability. And I think having Pluto there is, again, bringing it all up. The moon in your 1st house is helping you emotionally process it so that you can truly have a new beginning. So I kind of see this like, for example, is if you've had a relationship that someone has cheated on you, it's like finally releasing any of those fears, processing them, and then not letting that fear of something that happened in the past affect your current reality and your current relationship. So that's just an example. It could be so different for each one of you, but I feel like you guys are getting really solid in your partnerships right now. You guys are also having Mercury in your 8th house square Uranus in your 11th house. So Mercury in the 8th house is a time in which we are having a lot come up around our emotional baggage. And I think that will not only help you examine your relationships and your participation in them, but I think it's also going to help you guys see how maybe you want to do things a little bit differently, because the 8th house is often connected to the past, while the 11th house, where Uranus is, the planet that's liberating Mercury, is connected to, in the 11th house, is connected to the future and our plans and how we want to change our lives moving forward. And so I feel like this is a time of, like what this card says, reinvention for you guys in a lot of ways. I do think a lot of it could be related to relationships, but there might be a significant portion of you that have some type of unhealthy relationship to your money, investments, your assets, or even your partner's money. And I think that's why I pulled the 2nd house, and Mercury being in the 8th house, Saturn being in the 8th house. You've had a lot of time to really analyze your relationship with financial resources. And I think that it's going to give you an opportunity now to think differently and make different decisions that can then affect your luck. So, and that's why I pulled the Knight of Swords and the Wheel of Fortune. I think with the Knight of Swords, you can have quicker or more sudden realizations, which is all about Mercury squaring Saturn, about your, like essentially your participation in undoings in your life, especially with this like the moon sextiling the north node in your 12th house of self-undoing. I think you guys might be realizing ways in which you've been contributing to your fortune or your luck actually not going your way. And so this is a time in which I think that will be illuminated. Of course, there's going to be some element of you being a victim to circumstances, but then there's always some element as well of our participation in a certain matter. And so I think you guys are going to have things become extremely clear about your role in something, and then it's going to give you the opportunity to shift the luck more in your favor. once you know kind of where you're contributing to that. So this seems like a really beautiful time to create much more stability in your life, in your relationships, and in your finances especially, but it could be in many different areas besides that. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Cancer rising. If this resonates, please like and comment down below. And if you want to learn astrology, then I recommend checking out my membership, the North Node Society, which you can find in the description box below. All right, up next we have my beautiful Leo risings. So let me just put these cards away. This full moon is happening for you along your 12th and your 6th house axis. So that means the full moon in Cancer is in your 12th house, and the sun with Pluto is in your 6th house. So some of you guys might be undergoing some deeper looks at your responsibilities and kind of the way that you show up in your day-to-day life, to your work, to your job, to any kind of responsibilities and commitments you have dedicated yourself to. And interesting, as I say that, I pulled the Saturn return age card, and if you know anything about Saturn return, it's all about getting really clear and really mature about the ways that we need to step up in our lives and really own our responsibilities. And with the sun with Pluto there, I feel like it's asking you guys to look at maybe ways that you have skirted around some responsibilities, not taken ownership, made excuses, maybe not even shown up as powerfully as you could, maybe not have owned your full abilities and talents within the workplace, or maybe taken less than you deserve and had maybe some interesting dynamics with people where you were not as appreciated or somehow being undervalued in life. So this can be in any kind of responsibility. It doesn't have to be just your job, but a lot of you, it will be your job. And so I think that you're going to have some things come to the surface now around that area of your life. And with the moon in the 12th house, I think it's helping you process emotionally where you might be selling yourself short, where you might be the underdog, or where you might have, I don't know. I mean, you're a Leo rising. Like, there's a lot of you that's meant to be step up and be seen. And your ruling planet, the sun, is now in contact with Pluto, asking you to become empowered, asking you to own your ish and step into a next level role in your life. With the Saturn return, you're being asked to seriously commit and examine your responsibilities and how you can be the better version of yourself, the more responsible, more mature, more badass person who owns their light and has other people recognize that. So the moon in the 12th, I think, is going to help you emotionally process where you might have undermined yourself or not given yourself full credit or asked for what you deserve out of life in a lot of ways. And I think that's why I pulled the Hanged Man, because I think most of what this is for you is an internal process of seeing yourself and your life differently. I don't think it's a lot about this huge external change. I think it's about you deciding to be different and to expect different out of your life. You guys also have Mercury in your 7th house making a square to Uranus in the 10th house. So I do think that you guys are going to be doing some kind of self-evaluation in terms of your career and your relationships, and you might have some realizations about any of these areas of your life, about maybe changes that you can make in the way that you step up and how that can even improve your relationships with other people. Because once you start seeing yourself differently, I do think others will match that. And I have the Chariot and the 9 of Cups to describe this. And so I feel like you guys are on a fast track to success, to getting your wishes fulfilled in both relationships and career. So this to me is like some of the most beautiful cards that you can have. But you first have to recognize your worthiness and how much you deserve these things, and also where you might need to step up even more in your actions and behavior. So it's about owning your worth inside and then also externally reflecting that and asking for the world to give that back to you. So I feel like you guys are going through an up leveling right now, and that feels exciting, but it could also be slightly uncomfortable, because Pluto with your ruling planet requires a little bit of pressure in order to transform and make changes. And so you might feel a little bit of that right now, but it is taking you to the Nine of Cups, where you're going to reach true emotional fulfillment and have some sort of wish fulfilled. So as I'm seeing for you, Leo rising, if this resonates, please let me know by liking, commenting down below. And if you want to learn astrology, then check out the North Node Society, which is my membership, linked in the description box below. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have my beautiful Virgo risings. So for you guys, this full moon is happening along your 11th and your 5th house axis. So the moon in Cancer is in your 11th house, and the sun with Pluto is in your 5th house. So definitely a time to take a good hard look in the ways in which you have been pursuing romantic interests, if that's something that you're doing, if you're dating, but also the ways in which you have been maybe pursuing certain pleasures. And with Pluto there, with the sun, it's going to have you do kind of a deeper dive or deeper analysis of ways in which you have maybe like sought after certain things that made you feel better, but it was done so from a place of repressing your truest needs. And so this is really getting down to the absolute core truth of what you need for lasting long-term fulfillment. And that's what Pluto does, is it has us, and as I say that, I pull the 10 of Cups. So yeah, that's what Pluto does. It strips us bare, and it asks us to be raw, vulnerable, and honest, and look at our soul's development and growth so that we can finally understand what it is that we really need to be happy. So not all this other superfluous BS. Like this is all, the sun and Pluto are in Capricorn. What are the bare necessities? What are the essentials? What are the foundations for fulfillment? And the moon being in the 11th house and in Cancer, I think is going to help you emotionally and intuitively connect with this High Priestess card to your long-term vision and your long-term happiness. It's going to help you start seeing with your third eye and making decisions from your heart center about what you want to do and how you want to behave so that you can have that lasting fulfillment. And so I think that you guys maybe have been making more decisions from a place of desire or lust, or just like more in the moment, kind of like carnal nature. And those things are really going to come under the spotlight for self-analysis and reflection. You guys also have Mercury in your 6th house of work making a square to Uranus in the 9th house. And so I think that similar to a message with Leo risings, I feel like you guys are examining your daily contribution to your lifestyle, to your choices, to your work and your responsibilities. And with the square with Uranus in the 9th, it's trying to help you have new ideas and ways of showing up to your life on a day-to-day basis, because there is a way in which you can feel freer and happier and more fulfilled. And I think that this Uranus square is trying to help you discover the little changes in behavior and responsibility that can help you do that. Not something restrictive, not like I need to have this budget, I need to plan, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't have to be so harsh. It's the High Priestess energy. It's the 10 of Cups energy. It's what makes me feel amazing. What brings my intuition alive? What gives me chills? Those are the things that I need to follow. And there might need to be some level of self-restraint and self-control. This 4 of Pentacles and the realization with the Sun and Pluto in the 5th house that maybe you've been acting out with short-term gratification. There might need to be some level of self-control that needs to undergo analysis, but really the biggest transformation is fully allowing yourself to live in a state of bliss and happiness and intuitive insight when making your decisions. If you can truly ask yourself what's fulfilling for you and make your decisions based off of that, you won't need to have so much self-control and self-discipline, because you're going to act and live from a place of love. And so that's really what I'm seeing for you guys, is this ability to liberate yourself through through thinking differently, behaving differently in the small, tiny ways, but that are spiritually and emotionally inspired. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Virgo rising. If this resonates, please let me know by liking, commenting down below. And if you want to learn astrology, then check out my membership, the North Node Society, linked in the description box below. Bye. All right, up next we have Libra rising. So for you guys, this full moon is happening along your 10th and your 4th house axis. So that means the moon is in your 10th house right now of career, and the sun and Pluto are hanging out in your 4th house of emotions and home and family. So this is a really big deal to have Pluto and the sun right now in the 4th house. When I think about the 4th house, I think about our roots, like the roots of a tree. And Pluto is taking us all the way back into our soul's roots from across many, many lifetimes. So it's giving you this very, very, very deep introspective quality where you're able to go and ask yourself some things or retrieve some aspects of yourself that before you may not have ever seen or noticed or fully grasped. And so this is a time of really being connected into your intuition and into your soul's deepest desires and emotional needs. Again, across lifetimes. Like there's something so like core about these things that you're going to be discovering. And it's asking you to get down to the foundations of what that is that makes you truly happy and stick with it consistently with this Knight of Pentacles. There is some element of resilience and not giving up that comes with having Pluto and the sun in the 4th house. You're being asked to do some deep inner work, deep inner reflection, but to also not give up on the things that you've been pursuing in your career. Wow, I have the Knight of Pentacles and then I have the Tower. Let me pull a card clarifying the Tower from this other deck. What is the Tower about for my Libra? Someone made a comment on my video the other day about they wish that I could shuffle better. And I'm just like, fuck off. Go away. Don't watch it. Okay, so the Page of Swords and the Two of Swords. Yes. Okay, this is exactly what I was feeling. So I feel like you guys are, as I'm mentioning, getting down to the absolute core of what you need to feel happy and fulfilled. And that's what that Tower card is all about. And you notice that both this Tower and this Jupiter Abundance card both have lightning coming into them, with this like shock element or this realization or this awakening and this opening up. And this makes a lot of sense because you have Mercury in the 5th making a square with Uranus in the 8th. And Uranus in the 8th being activated by Mercury is one of the most intuitive and insightful placements for Uranus to be, because it makes you face like the truth of your life in terms of how maybe you have had certain fears or certain past things or especially past lives. I do feel like for you guys this is deeply connected to past lives of certain things happening to you, certain crises or traumas from past lives that are being illuminated and liberated. And you might not have a full realization of like, this is exactly what happened in my past life, blah, blah, blah. Like, I think you are emotionally opening up a can of worms that comes from deep within, through the soul, extending multiple lives. And something that, like some events that may have happened that could have felt like this Tower moment and could have taken you further away from your power, further away from your truth and what makes you truly happy. It could have made you more unsure of yourself or indecisive about how to move forward in certain areas of your life. And I feel like what's happening now is a complete plug-in into all those timelines of your past lives and a resurfacing of some of the emotional events to be liberated, for you to become very clear now about what it is that you've been indecisive about, what it is you've been trying to make decisions about or uncertain about. It's cutting through all the BS and coming down to the core of who you are and what you need, and relieving emotionally some of those things from those past lives that contribute to the indecisiveness, because I do think it's linked to the past life trauma where you're scared, your soul is scared about certain events repeating, and I think it's inhibiting you in some way. So this feels extremely liberating. With this Jupiter card, I think you have a lot of potential right now to grow, especially significantly in your career with the moon in the 10th. You might have deep emotional, intuitive insights about what to do next in your career. And I think some of the indecision and emotional turmoil will start to fall away, and you're being asked to work hard and not give up. Be resilient about about the things that feel right in your career, because it will lead to this breakthrough and this success. So I feel like you guys are processing a lot. I don't even think that you will know how much you're processing at this time, but you're really starting to let go of a lot in order to grow. Specifically in your career with this moon in the 10th house, I think you're letting go a lot of it, indecision and unknown, and you're stepping into your truth, your power, and less afraid that the past will repeat itself, and more dedicated and perseverant than ever before. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Libra rising. If that resonates, please let me know by liking and commenting down below. And if you would like to learn astrology, then check out my membership, the North Node Society, in the description box below. Thanks. Bye. All right, up next we have my beautiful Scorpio risings. So this full moon in Cancer is happening along your 9th and 3rd house axis. So the moon itself in Cancer is in your 9th house, and the sun along with Pluto is in your 3rd house. So this definitely could be a time in which you guys are much more anxious than usual. With the sun and Pluto in the 3rd, I can see almost like obsessive thinking. And you guys are actually, with the sun and Pluto in the 3rd, are opening yourself up to the potential to have some massive manifestations through the mind, because the sun and Pluto in the 3rd are making me think of basically like the law of attraction, manifestation through thinking, visualization. So I think that you guys have some potential right now to unlock some new beginnings for yourself, or some deep desires that you've wanted. Especially with the moon in the 9th, I feel like this is being emotionally informed by the spiritual world, or supported by your guides. I feel like you are being guided right now. If you lack clarity, your guides are here to help you to get clear, to get precise in a way, like to open up your brain to kind of like what you want. And I pulled the Empress card, so I feel like you guys are absolutely in this stage of manifestation, and I don't know if you've like realized it. I think maybe some of you guys have felt like the things that you want are out of reach, because the Sun Pluto card comes from a place of like obsession and fear, and it can be driven by these interesting, challenging, negative emotions. And so I feel like you guys have been you probably have been feeling like this, and you probably are still feeling like this at this full moon. And with the moon in the 9th house, I think you're going to be really realizing the ways in which you've been emotionally affected by some of your fears and some of these like repeating thoughts and worries and indecision, and just like a lot going on in the mental plane. But you have so much energy in the mental plane, it is affecting you emotionally, but that energy in the mental plane is here for you to tap into and mold into your desires. Because I'm seeing the Magician and the Empress, you guys. Like, this is really powerhouse manifesting energy, full of abundance, knowing that you will have everything provided for if you just believe. And so I feel like the moon in the 9th is asking you to have faith, have hope, have optimism, and connect to your spiritual and emotional center. And as I say that, I pull the solar eclipse revolution card. So you guys are going through a really massive change in your life. And for some of you, it might be more internal, but I think for a lot of you, it is external. And a lot of you might be having some huge realizations about relationships, especially around relationships that are intimately connected to your home or your family life. That's because you have Mercury in the 4th house making a square to Uranus in the 7th house. So this is your time to re-examine and understand your relationships differently, to have more freedom there, to have more truth come in there, to have more reality, and that those truths can then awaken a literal external change in your life and in your external reality. But again, you have so much potential right here to manifest whatever you want that feels really good, that feels really abundant, independent, and safe. And what I'm seeing for you guys is having to really be intentional about your mind and your thoughts right now, because again, you have so much potential, but that doesn't mean that all of you will use that potential to benefit yourself. Some of this mental and emotional potential could be used to harm yourself if you still stay in the same negative thought spirals. So be intentional about your thoughts, because you can essentially manifest the life that you want right now. You have everything at your fingertips, but you have to believe that you do. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Scorpio rising. If it resonates, please like and comment down below. And if you want to learn astrology, check out my membership, the North Node Society, linked in the description box below. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, so up next we have my beautiful Sagittarius risings. So for you guys, this full moon is happening along your 8th and 2nd house axis. So the moon in Cancer is in the 8th house, and the sun is hanging out with Pluto in your 2nd house. So definitely a really big time to examine your finances. You guys might be a little bit more fearful having Pluto and the sun in your 2nd house about your financial success right now. I pulled the Strength card along with the Ace of Pentacles. And to me, that's really indicating that there may be some opportunities that you're looking for or that you're wanting, but the Strength card along with it is asking for resilience, courage, conviction, faith, and sticking to your path. And so I think that you guys definitely are experiencing some more emotional turmoil or anxiety about some long-term goals and plans that you have. And I think one of the things that the universe wants you to recognize is that you can open up more potential for success as you further develop your skills, because the sun and the Pluto in the 2nd house of finances is also the 2nd house of skill sets and what we need to create finances. So the sun and Pluto is generating a lot of energy in that area of your life and asking you to step up and make changes, and maybe to see ways in which you have repressed certain talents of yours, not tapped into them, or unlock them from previous lifetimes. I think that you guys have that potential right now, but you're being asked to be honest about where those potentials might be, and then actually really dedicate yourself to them. So none of this like, oh, I might do this sometimes. You guys have Mercury in the 3rd house making a square to Uranus in the 6th. This is a realization about your actions and your level of responsibility and the tasks that you do. So it's all about the things that you are doing every day, the things on your to-do list. That's what the 8 of Pentacles is, developing your skills and having realizations about how you are spending and managing your time. And if you are truly dedicating yourself to developing skills in your life that can help you make more money or help create more internal stability or help create more self-confidence, some kind of stabilizing factor is what you're truly desiring. But in order to have that, you need to look at how your daily routines have been contributing to your level of success or your lack of success. I just pulled the Void of Course Moon, and I feel like that's exactly what I'm saying. Like looking at how you're spending your time and looking at maybe what you're not doing or what is missing in your life. This literally says missing. So there is something missing, some missed opportunity that you guys have the potential to act on now. And that is going to, again, create so much more inner and external stability in your life if you decide to act on it. The Grand Trine is a blessings card, which to me is saying you guys are having opportunities knocking at your door, but trines still have to be acted on. Trines have to be accepted. Sometimes we can take so much advantage of the opportunities that are given to us that we don't even see them as opportunities, and so we don't take full advantage of them. So I feel like this full moon is coming in with the moon in the 8th house to have you examine your inner securities, have you examine your emotional nature with this Knight of Cups. I don't really see this as relationships. I see this more so as somebody who is coming and looking, basically they're holding their emotions in a cup and walking around with it, trying not to spill it. There's something about you guys where I feel like you're trying to keep your ish together, and you're just trying to like hold on to your emotions and keep it together. And I feel like what you really need is stability and security in your life right now, but you can't have that by doing the same things you've done. I think you have to further develop certain skills by acting on certain opportunities that the universe is presenting to you. And if you ignore them, then you are going to kind of still be in that same place where you're trying to emotionally keep yourself together and strong. And this 9th house card, I think, is the last card to really just reiterate that you are meant to have courage and conviction in what you are working towards, and know that it is possible for you. So know that you can have financial success, know that you can have emotional stability, know that you can have the things that you want. But there is some period of enduring right now, of working hard, of putting in the effort and the sweat equity, and having faith that everything is going to work out. That's essentially what I see that you guys truly need right now. And that is what's going to lead you to ultimate happiness and stability. So that's what I see for you, Sag. If this resonates, please let me know by liking, commenting down below. And if you guys want to learn astrology, then check out my membership, the North Node Society, which is linked in the description box below. Thanks. Bye. All right, up next we have my beautiful Capricorn risings. So for you guys, you are having some of the biggest transformation of all, because the sun is in your first house along with Pluto. So definitely a lot of intense energy in the first house, which always can bring about an examination of our foundations, of our decisions, of our physical body. Basically anything that makes up our life is coming under the microscope right now. And I feel like you guys, I just pulled the 10 of Pentacles. I feel like you guys are really examining what can lead you to stability. And I actually was just saying this for Sagittarius, and I feel like that might be the question for a lot of us right now. What has made me feel unstable, and how can I create long-term stability and happiness in my life? So a lot of you guys, this might be financial, because Venus has been retrograde in your first house. You've been really examining your finances. But for some of you, it might be relationships. For some of you, it might be your home, your mental health. There can be any number of things where you're really starting to dive deep and ask yourself, where have I been emotionally, mentally, physically unstable in some type of way? And how can I create a more solid foundation so that isn't an issue anymore? And with the moon in the 7th house, you guys might be having some deeper realizations about your relationships as well, and how that contributes to this whole scenario. Maybe how you show up to your relationships, expectations that you have in your relationships, anything in that regard is likely coming under the microscope, because one of the things that helps us make us feel the most stable is our career, our finances, our health, and our relationships. And so I mean, it's one of the key pillars. And so, of course, it's going to be something that you guys are being asked to really look at right now. And with Mercury in the 2nd house, I also think finances. So really, like, relationships and finances are some of the things that are coming under the most fire, as well as purpose, because the sun and Pluto together really have us dig deep into what our purpose is and why we are here, why we are doing what we're doing, and what can make us feel more grounded in this reality, more content with living on Earth, more stable, and all those things. So I think that's basically, I feel like you guys are questioning some really major areas of your life. And you have some beautiful cards here. You have the 10 of Pentacles and the Justice, which to me is asking you to make decisions. The Justice card is about fairness. I do think that you guys maybe need to be more fair on yourselves, especially with Pluto with the sun. There can be maybe not so much criticalness as in like fear and hyperbole that can come to our attention, especially when we examine aspects of ourselves. So it is a time in which I think you need to be more fair or more just when looking at your relationship with yourself, and with your finances, because Saturn is with Mercury, asking us to be fair in our thinking, asking us to be realistic, asking us to be grounded. So don't become hyperbolic in a negative sense or even in a positive sense, trying to keep things fair and neutral. Examine your relationships and your finances and your purpose, and ask yourself how you feel about these areas of your life and how you can create more stability. And with Mercury squaring Uranus in the 5th, the way in which you can create more stability is by asking yourself what brings you joy. It's a quite simple question. I think that you're going to have a lot of decisions to make, and all you need to ask yourself is what makes me feel more joy, because that is what will lead you to greater stability. And I mean true joy, because we're talking about Pluto here. We're not talking about that food that you ordered at Uber Eats at 3 a.m. because you were high. We're talking about real lasting contentedness. And so you guys are being asked to really look at your mindset, look at where your thoughts are going, examine these areas of your life. And again, simple question, make it simple. Doesn't have to be complicated. What brings me joy that I know of right now? You might not know 10 steps from now, that's okay. But like, what brings me joy and stability into my life? Just keep asking yourself that. And as these decisions come up for you to make, base them off of that and you will be okay. But don't get hyperbolic right now. With the sun, with Pluto, you might be more catastrophizing in one's thoughts, especially with Saturn and Mercury. It can make us more negative, more pessimistic. And you have the moon in your 7th. So you have a lot of emotional support coming through your relationships. There is a nurturing happening. So lean on other people. And that is going to help you transition through this bigger moment in your life right now. So that's what I see for you, Capricorn. I hope that resonates. And if so, please like and comment down below. And if you're interested in learning astrology, check out my membership, the North Node Society, linked in the description box below. All right, up next we have my beautiful Aquarius risings. So for you guys, this full moon is happening along your 12th and your 6th house axis, which means the moon is in your 6th house in Cancer, and the sun is in the 12th house in Capricorn, along with Pluto. And I will say, I was just talking about this with Capricorn rising, there is some element of catastrophizing and negativity that can come with Pluto with the sun, as well as Saturn with Mercury. And I did pull the 8 of Swords. So I definitely feel like many of you guys are living in a bit of a state of anxiety right now or negative thinking. And I think that this full moon is going to probably exacerbate that or make that seem much more obvious. But life is going better than you're giving it credit for, because after this I pulled the 4 of Cups. So you guys are being blessed by the universe in many ways in your life, but I do think that some of you are not recognizing it or not feeling gratitude right now. And I think one of the best ways to help you alleviate a negative mindset is by thinking about all the ways in which your life is going right and practicing gratitude. And so I really highly encourage all the Aquarius risings right now to sit down and make a list tonight at the full moon about what you are grateful for and what you're doing well, and give yourself some credit there first and foremost. The other thing I will say is that having the moon in the 6th house can really light up your emotions when it comes to your work and your responsibilities. Some of you guys might feel like you've been overloaded with responsibilities or have had a lot to do. And I pulled the Libra balance card, which to me is asking you guys how you can maybe create a little bit more balance in your life if you have been going hard lately. Saturn has been squaring your modern ruler Uranus. It's been challenging you to level up in maturity and responsibility in your life. Saturn is a traditional ruler, and making a square to Uranus has been asking you to find and create freedom but through making changes that are uncomfortable. And so you guys have had an enormous amount of pressure on you for all of 2021, and it is going to continue a bit in 2022. And I think this Libra balance card is asking you guys to try to find some kind of homeostasis amongst the change and the hard work and the pressure that you've been under. Can you remove this Eight of Swords? Like, life is going to continue to be the same way. Why add this pressure of anxiety and of worry? Can you remove those blindfolds and that stress and that negative thinking? And can you just allow yourself to embrace how life is right now without having to change everything, but maybe just trying to do your best to be grateful and find more balance? And it's just like the little things this month that I feel like are going to emotionally liberate you, because Mercury in your first house is squaring Uranus in your fourth house. So there is a potential here for realizations about little things, about the way that you think, the way that you move through life, the decisions that you make. There's a potential right now for those things to come up to be faced again, and for you to find ways in which you can be more comfortable, more at home in your own skin, more aligned with yourself emotionally. And I think one of those choices and decisions is to think more positively and not focus on the things that are going wrong or the pressure that you're under, because it is there and it's not just going to go away. And so you can decide to think differently to alleviate some of the added discomfort that is unnecessary in this situation. I will say also that you guys got the Ace of Cups, and I feel like having the Sun and the Pluto in your 12th house is allowing you to surrender quite a bit to the transformative process of nature, of the world, of spirituality. And it's trying to not get you guys to like change it or direct it or do that much. I'm really getting a passive kind of energy, like change your thoughts, but don't try to change everything in your reality right now. Like, just changing the way that you perceive a situation and express more gratitude is going to come in here with this kind of like angelic savior opportunity to make you feel more emotionally fulfilled. So you don't need to do much in your life right now, but change your perspective and the universe will catch up and have your back. That's really what I'm seeing. I feel like it's graciousness from the universe that will sweep in with this Ace of Cups and give you an opportunity for greater emotional fulfillment and satisfaction. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Aquarius rising. If that resonates, please let me know by liking, commenting down below. And if you want to learn astrology, check out my membership, the North Node Society, linked in the description box below. Bye. All right, and last but certainly not least, we have my beautiful Pisces risings. So for you guys, this full moon is happening in your 11th and 5th house axis. The full moon the moon in Cancer is in the 5th, and the sun is with Pluto in your 11th house. And I just pulled the Ace of Swords, which is very interesting because the 11th house is a lot about our vision for the future. And wherever the sun is, it's bringing clarity. And wherever Pluto is, it's bringing a deep, innate truth. And so I feel like you guys are becoming super clear about elements of your future and your life and your relationships, because the 11th house is a lot about our relationships, and the 5th house as well. And so I think that you guys... Oh, and I just pulled the 7th house, the other relationship house, 5th, 11th, and 7th. So all of these are being hit on. Relationships are coming under the microscope and becoming really clear in some ways. And especially the ways in which you've contributed to negativity and relationship dynamics, because the Pluto and the Sun in the 11th can show maybe some power plays or some intense emotional conflicts or just some discomfort or fears or anything in relationships that can come up that can kind of derail them or make them feel less joyful. Those are all the things are basically going to come under light and ask you to examine again your responsibility in those behaviors or in those matters. You have Mercury conjunct Saturn in the 12th, which is giving you a lot of perspective on self-undoing, self-sabotage that can come into your relationships, and is squaring Uranus in the 3rd house, which is awakening you mentally. And it's awakening your mental faculties to be able to see your contribution to difficulties in relationships or certain relationship patterns. I'm not blaming you. I'm not saying it's all you, but we all have contributions to conflict in our lives. And if you guys have been having any kind of conflict, it will become really clear about everyone's role and dynamic in it. And the Three of Pentacles is also about working together with someone. So there might even be certain relationships at work that are under the microscope more now. Or it's basically saying that you can move through this clarity, through this Ace of Swords, you can move from conflict to being able to work together with someone, build something with someone, and have just greater peace and harmony and mutual understanding. And so I feel like you guys are being liberated in a lot of ways to create more joy and harmony in your relationships. With Mercury in Cancer, the moon in Cancer, there is some focus on emotional connection. And in the 5th house, there is a desire for joy and pleasure and intimacy. And I think that's why the 7th house is coming up as well, is maybe your dating life is something specifically that you're examining, and you're finding out how to create better relationships in that area of your life, or a better approach to your dating life, or any kind of relationship that brings you that kind of intimacy, vulnerability, and connection. It doesn't have to just be dates. And so I feel like you guys are having a light shine on this area of your life and having clarity about your contribution, and then you're being asked to shift that in order to create more harmony. So that is what I'm seeing. If that resonates with you, Pisces, please like and comment down below and let me know. If you're interested in learning astrology, check out my membership, the North Node Society, which is linked in the description box below. And I hope you guys have a beautiful full moon. Bye.